As much as extroverts love to talk to people and be around people, they don't like to talk to themselves, from what I'm gathering, okay? And yes, I'm calling you out. Follow your curiosity, because I feel like that will lead you to find more like-minded people who are interested in things that you're interested in, because if you're following your curiosity, you are following things that you already like or following things that you potentially could like. I really want to take a dance class. Oh my gosh, like Just Dance was a part of like my brothers and I's like daily routine when we were younger, like Rasputin. Like, don't even get me started. Hi everyone, you're listening to Transplants, the podcast for 20-somethings moving to a new city and trying to navigate all the trials and tribulations that come with it. I'm your host, Joyce, and today we're going to be talking about introverts versus extroverts in a new city, because I feel like understanding your human design will help set you up for success during your move, because no matter who you are or however you identify, going through that process is just very difficult. But understanding a little bit more about yourself and your tendencies will help you navigate through that time a little bit easier. And I feel like human design has been on my radar for the past few weeks or so, and you can definitely go down your own rabbit hole deep dive of human design and you'll find a lot of different things. I feel like there's so much that goes into it, but if you're at the beginning of trying to learn more about yourself and discover more about like your tendencies and your habits, I feel like starting with more familiar words such as like introvert, extrovert, even ambivert will help you during that process. So we're going to go through all of those things and try and talk through how you can play through your strengths and weaknesses during your move. But yeah, before we get into it, if you're watching the podcast on YouTube, you may see that my background is a little bit different, and that is because I am home in Texas for the holidays. Whoop whoop. Very exciting. It's been a lot of fun to see family that I haven't seen in a while. I'm here for 3 weeks through New Year's or so, which is a long period of time, but I'm very happy to be home and not in super cold weather in Ohio. But yeah, this takes me back to like my old YouTuber days, back when I had a YouTube channel throughout like middle school, high school, early college-ish. Wow, that was a time, and hopefully that doesn't spark you to go do a deep dive and try to find it. Actually, you know what? I actually privated / unlisted like the embarrassing videos, so you'll find like the good ones, I think, or at least I hope. But yeah. Maybe I should have continued with the videos so I could be in my YouTuber influencer bag. But you know what? That's happening in an alternate universe, and I hope that Joyce is living her best life. But any hoosers, hope you're spending some time with loved ones as we close out 2023. At the time I'm recording this, 2024 is a few days away, which is very crazy to think about, but I'm excited for what the new year brings, and hopefully you are too. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. Girl, not the video. Let's get, back to my roots, LOL. Let's get into the content of today's podcast episode. When doing research for this episode and like learning more about introverts, extroverts, I was like doing something about myself, and I was like, oh, what am I? And when I talk to people or like say what I am to other people, I usually say like, what is it? Introverted extrovert or extroverted introvert. I usually do one of the two, because I definitely feel like I'm social and I love talking to new people, meeting new people, having a good time, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I like when I spend like a long periodically time not talking to people and I'm able to just be by myself. But I probably have more like extroverted tendencies, which I think is important to recognize, because I feel like no one is like singular. No one is 100% introvert or like 100% extrovert. And if you feel like you might be in the middle, you might be an ambivert, which I learned is someone who feels like they are like equally introvert, extrovert, and didn't know that before researching this topic. But you know, hey, every day's a school day. But yeah, I took a quiz trying to identify like what I was, and it was like, yeah, you're definitely an extrovert. But in the results, they had like their point system, and I was like 120, which is like the cusp of like being an extrovert. So I was like, you know what, maybe I am right. And if you're interested, I'll definitely link that quiz down below so you can figure out what you are. But diving a little bit deeper into today's topics, I wanted to start off by talking to my introverts first, because I feel like in society, introverts are people who may tend to struggle like in social settings, and like building relationships, just because they tend to, be by themselves, self-isolate, and just want to spend more time alone, which I think isn't a bad thing, especially when you move to a new city. You are likely to just spend a lot of time alone in the beginning, especially if you don't know anyone in that new city. So already like being built that way will probably be like an advantage for you in the beginning, because you'll be able to spend that time, self-reflecting, decorating your apartment, exploring new things on your own, which is great. But on the flip side, you are likely more likely to like self-isolate and put yourself in a vulnerable position, which we don't want. But to ground ourselves in a definition, according to Merriam-Webster, an introvert is a typically reserved or quiet person who tends to be introspective and enjoys spending time alone, which, like I said, can be super helpful in a new city. But on the flip side, it can be harder for you to put yourself out there and, again, put yourself in a vulnerable position, which we do not like. So now I will dive a little bit more into how to combat that when moving to a new city, and hopefully you'll have some good takeaways to take with you, because it's a takeaway. Starting off, before you even move to wherever you're going, I think it's super important for you to be proactive and start to leverage your existing network. So reach out to friends, family, people on LinkedIn, your mentors or whatever, and just, put like a feeler out there and say, hey, I'm moving to so-and-so city. If you know someone from there or someone who lives there that I could connect with, please let me know. I'd love to like have coffee with them or hop on the phone with them. And I feel like that's such an easy way for you to like get the ball rolling in terms of like building these new connections, because these people, you might not know these people obviously, but it's definitely reassuring like to have in the back of your mind, like, okay, I know at least someone in this city. I may not know them personally, but I know that there's at least one person that I could talk to if I needed to. And there might be like an extended cousin or like a friend of a friend of a friend, but knowing that that presence is there will probably make a world of a difference. And when putting these feelers out there, you might not get like a lot of results, but remember that one person can open the door to so many others, because that one person can introduce you to, say, someone from their church or someone from their work, or introduce you to their friends and their colleagues or whatever. And that can just lead to even more connections. So remember that the power of one is strong when you're navigating these things, especially if you meet like an extrovert. I saw a lot of people on TikTok when like giving advice to introverts or whatever, was basically to find an extrovert and have them adopt you, because that extrovert will introduce you to their friend group and just basically integrate you into their lives, because extroverts are, people who talk to everyone. They've got a lot of love and energy to give, and you'll, become a part of their family, become a part of their friend group, which will definitely make you establishing your own connections a much easier ride. So again, remember the power of one. Putting yourself out there to make a connection, make friends, any relationship can be daunting no matter who you are, because you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position to be judged by other people, which, might not be like the worst thing in the world for you, because you might not give a poop what people think, which we love, but at the same time, we're all human. So we think about it to a certain degree, you know what I mean? But speaking to my introverts here, to make that process a little bit easier, I think you should definitely be super intentional. No, that's not a word. Be super intentional about what you want to achieve and identify your goals. So say you're going out to like this mixer event or whatever, just tell yourself, okay, I just want to make one friend tonight and that will be fine for me. Especially if you feel like you're socially anxious too, going to an event by yourself can be so hard and so like terrifying. So just setting a goal for yourself will help you like identify a game plan and just go with that game plan. And making it a game too, I think will make it a lot more fun and easier because, I mean, who doesn't love a good game? Because you can, identify your objective, which is, making one new friend. And then once you achieve that, you can reward yourself. You can get your little bonus points, which could be like a sweet treat afterwards or buying yourself this thing. I think making a game, like in any situation that can be hard or like daunting to you, I think will make it like a lot more fun and probably give you like a lot more motivation too, because like I said, who doesn't love a fun little game? Okay, diving a little bit deeper to when you're like in those in-person scenarios, obviously small talk is the way for you to like get in with a person and start like a conversation. And I feel like no matter who you are, small talk can be, you can either like it or hate it completely, which I get because small talk, it's like so surface level and nobody wants to talk about the weather or whatever's happening on the news because at least nowadays the news is not very good, okay? And I don't care that the cloud is or the skies are gray, whatever. You know what I mean? Small talk, it's just, it can be annoying. But it's important for you to remember that small talk can be a tool and it can lead to you like sparking or asking deeper questions. And I feel like if you're someone who likes those deeper questions and likes to have deep conversations with people, don't hold yourself back from asking those questions. I mean, definitely don't ask people like their deepest traumas when you first meet them. But if you're feeling sparked to ask someone, what they're passionate about or just something that you think will provoke like a deeper answer, don't be afraid to ask that because those deep questions will lead to like more authentic and genuine questions. Just be sure to word it in like a approachable way so that people aren't turned off to that. I think an easy way to go about that is like making observational comments or like giving people a compliment. So like an easy way is complimenting, someone's appearance or whatever. And as you continue talking, you can compliment like their intellect and be like, oh, you work in computer science. You must be like an intellectual person. Like, what are you passionate about? Like, what do you like to learn? What do you like about learning? Things like that are a little bit more introspective. But yeah, being observational and just like being a good listener, I think will help you to navigate those conversations easier and make deeper connections quicker. On that note, I definitely encourage you to follow your curiosity. So if you're in, like, I keep going back to this bar example, but if you're in a bar and you see someone with cool pants on and you love those pants, you want some for yourself, definitely, follow your curiosity. Ask them, where they got these pants. Has fashion always been something that you love? I see you've got good style. Like, where did this come from? Things like that. Follow your curiosity because I feel like that will lead you to find more like-minded people who are interested in things that you're interested in. Because if you're following your curiosity, you are following things that you already like or following things that you potentially could like. And that's just, building upon like your identity capital. You're just like building upon who you are, and you'll obviously be attracted to people who are like you in a way. So if you follow your curiosity by, like I said, talking to a stranger or like taking a class in something that you're interested in, maybe trying pottery or watercolor or like a dance class or something like that, following that curiosity will lead you to be in spaces where you'll find more people like you. Personally, one of my 2024 goals is to take classes and things that I'm interested in. So for example, like a watercolor class, or I really want to take a dance class. Oh my gosh, like Just Dance was a part of like my brothers and I's like daily routine when we were younger, like Rasputin. Like, don't even get me started. I really want to take a dance class and just live my like pop star fantasy. So I will definitely be doing that. And once you become consistent with like a class or something, you're going to be seeing the same people every day, every week, or however often the class is, and you'll become a regular. And having that familiarity will definitely help you like feel more comfortable in those social settings, and you'll start to make friends with the people in your class. Or for example, I joined like an indoor rec soccer league this past year, and at first I definitely wasn't staying super long after the games because I was quote unquote like a free agent and joined like the house team. And I at first wasn't connecting with my teammates, but I think over time, as we all got like more familiar with each other, or as I got more familiar with them, we started to, talk more. We play on Tuesdays. Sometimes we go to Taco Tuesday afterwards, and it's a lot of fun. So becoming a regular like in a class is a super easy thing because you're paying for this thing. It's easy for you to become consistent because it's on like certain times on certain days. But you should also become a regular, like say at a coffee shop. Ooh, I love me a good coffee shop, or a regular at a bar, or a bookshop, whatever. Becoming a regular, like I said, will allow you to build that familiarity and will make you feel more comfortable in a setting. So next time you're at like your favorite coffee shop in your new city, maybe you can try a different drink, or talk to someone who is, sitting across from you. Just spark up a quick conversation, and that will just allow you to feel a lot more comfortable approaching strangers in those settings. I feel like I've talked a lot about the physical world and meeting people in person, but want to talk a little bit more about the digital world and using social media to your advantage, because I feel like we all know that the internet and like social media is a powerful tool, but sometimes we forget that because we spend, 8 hours a day doom scrolling on TikTok. And we're going to stop doing that and actually use social media to our advantage by following people on social media and becoming mutuals with them, and then hopefully becoming friends in real life and like meeting up in person and doing the dang thing. I feel like digital communities are an easy way for you to kind of get your foot in the door in a new city, and then hopefully take those digital connections offline and into real in-person things. So I think I might have mentioned this in like a previous episode, but digital groups like on Facebook or Instagram, there's a lot of different Instagram pages that are catered to different cities. So like in Columbus, there's Columbus Girls Who Walk on Instagram, and then on Facebook, there is Columbus Girl Gang. So it's super easy to find these groups on, whatever social media platform, and then you can start to perhaps follow people on those groups. Even before you start moving, be proactive, start interacting with people online, and then once you get to your new city, it's easier for you to set up like an in-person connection because you've been establishing this relationship with someone digitally. But yeah, remember that social media is your friend, not your foe. And lastly, for my introverts, I want to remind you to know yourself, know your limits, and respect your boundaries. Because one, yes, you should definitely be pushing yourself to make new connections, make new friends, and do all the things. But at the same time, know like your limit, your social battery might expire quicker than other people, and that's okay. If you feel like you need to spend this Friday night in, definitely do that and allow yourself to recharge so that the next time you do step out, you are your best self and you're operating like at 100% and you can give more energy to it. I feel like it's easy for introverts, especially if they're feeling pushed to like do something, and this can definitely be amplified when you're in a new city because obviously you know nobody. You want to push yourself to do all the things, go on the adventures, rah, but at the same time, you can't be going out every single weekend, Thursday through Saturday. You know what I mean? I mean, you can, but hey, that's your prerogative. I'm not here to judge, but at the same time, we gotta approach these situations with our best foot forward, approach them authentically, and show up as our best selves. So know and respect your boundaries. And if you feel like you don't want to go to this event, then don't go. Okay? Don't go. But like I said in a previous episode, don't be a whiny baby. Like if you genuinely can't bring yourself to go to an event, definitely don't go. But if you're feeling like, I just don't feel like going, and you're just being dilly-dally, don't be a whiny baby and just go, because you'll probably have a lot of fun and think back on it and be like, wow, I'm actually glad that I went. Okay, period. So now I'm going to talk to my extroverts, and extroverts listening, you may be thinking, I don't need this because I can talk to anyone and make friends with anybody and navigate any social setting with ease, which is likely true. But at the same time, I'm about to call you out because you are probably overextending yourself, not setting boundaries, and that is probably leading to other things that you're not necessarily a fan of. Okay. It's definitely easy for you to connect with others and put yourself out there, which is super helpful in a new city. But at the same time, there are some caveats to that. But again, to ground ourselves in a definition, according to Merriam-Webster, a extrovert is a typically gregarious, is that how you say it? Gregarious and unreserved person who enjoys and seeks out social interaction, which, like I said, is definitely a useful skill to have when you move to a new city and just in life in general. But at the same time, you are likely depleting yourself quicker than you even realize. So speaking to you extroverts right now, being intentional for an extrovert versus an introvert, I think, is a little bit different. So when you're extroverted, it's important for you to remember that not everyone is your best friend, although it may be easy for you to have everyone thinking that they're your best friend just because you get along with everyone. You have to remember that not everyone is your bestie, and some people don't deserve to have, access to you as much as they do. And you've got to set some clear, distinct boundaries, okay? You have to remember what you want out of a relationship, and are all these people around you like true and genuine friends? Because if you just moved to a new city, you're probably, making a lot of connections, meeting a lot of new people, which is great. But at the same time, it's important for you to keep in the back of your head, like, who do I want to spend more time with? Who is a real genuine person that I want to continue getting to know? Because before you know it, you will be spending all these energy on people and then have no energy for yourself at the end of the day, which we do not want. So remember that not everyone is your best friend, and maintain clear, consistent boundaries with yourself and with other people. Don't overextend yourself and let other people take the reins, whether that's socially with friends, romantically, at work, whatever. Because if you're doing all the things, going to all the places, the events or whatever, you may think that your energy supply is endless because you're an extrovert or whatever, but girly pop, that is not the case. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, being an introvert or an extrovert doesn't exist in the vacuum. I don't even know if I'm saying that phrase right, but it's not singular, right? It's not linear. It's okay for you to be at home on a Friday night and realize, I actually don't want to go out tonight, and that's totally fine. Or your friend invites you to a movie and you're like, actually, I don't want to do that, babes. That is totally okay, because you can't be extroverted all the time. You're only a human being. Sometimes you want to be approached at a bar and not approach someone, and that's fine, because everyone wants to be desired, whether that's romantically, friendship wise, or whatever. We all want to know that people like us and want to be near us. It's also okay for you to get nervous or shy when approaching people if you identify as an extrovert, because you're not one-dimensional, and you don't have to put up this front that you can, go up to any person and they can tell you their whole life story, which happens to a lot of people, but it may not happen every time. You know what I mean? It's okay if you need to give yourself a pep talk before you have to go talk to someone. Sometimes I got to do that. You definitely want to embrace all those feelings and all those emotions that may arise, because I feel like a common misconception about introverts or extroverts, like I was saying, is that they're, always outgoing, always happy and smiling, and, they can talk to anybody, whatever. But like I was just saying, they might need to give themselves a pep talk before they go talking up to people. And that pep talk may not be as extensive as an introvert's, or as long as an introvert's, but it's still happening, you know what I mean? And just because you feel lonely, not lonely, but like nervous or shy, that doesn't take away from like who you are and like your ability to connect with people, if that makes sense. As much as extroverts love to talk to people and be around people, they don't like to talk to themselves, from what I'm gathering, okay? And yes, I'm calling you out because extroverts spend a lot of time like with other people and being around other people, which is great. We love that human connection, but how much do you know about yourself? You know what I mean? How much introspective have you done? How much self-reflection have you done? Like, do you know yourself? Are you happy with yourself? Do you like spending time alone by yourself? I feel like that is like the caveat or like the bad side, I guess, that extroverts experience, because yes, you can talk to all these people, but can you talk to yourself? Do you like talking to yourself? Do you like spending time alone with yourself? So I feel like if you're an extrovert in a new city, definitely try to find that balance between being with people and being by yourself. Like I mentioned earlier, you'll likely spend a lot of time alone when you first move to a new city because you don't, well, especially if you don't know anyone, you might live alone or whatever. There's just a lot of things going on, but it's super important to embrace that loneliness and to use that time to your advantage to be introspective, learn more about yourself, do some inner healing, do some what are people doing nowadays? Inner child work, do all those things to become more familiar with yourself and start to fall in love with yourself. And in this process, you might discover that you're putting on a facade. Girl, you're putting up a mask with all these people. And we're not trying to do that because we're trying to create genuine, authentic connections with people. Because hello, we left all that fakeness in 2023 and beyond. I mean, not beyond, previous years. Okay. We're not doing that anymore. So yeah, embrace the alone time, embrace the loneliness. The next episode I want to release is about being lonely versus alone, which I feel like is something that is definitely important to talk about, especially when you move somewhere where you know absolutely no one, because being alone is like a state of being that you will experience a lot, but loneliness, that's a whole different beast, girl. So be on the lookout for that episode when it drops. But yeah, I did want to not recommend a book because I haven't read it myself, and I can't recommend something that I haven't actually read, but a book that I've seen a lot of people recommend in like the whole relationship building space is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I feel like that will be beneficial for anyone to read, whether you identify as introvert, extrovert, ambivert, whatever. Especially when you're in your 20s, like I said, trying to establish new connections, whatever. And especially if you are starting like your first job out of college and, trying to build relationships with your boss, your cross-functional partners, your HR rep, whatever. That I think is probably a good book to keep on your bookshelf and probably give a little ganda or maybe do a spark notes or whatever. That's definitely on my reading list. And I'll get back to you once I have read it, LOL. But, idea. You guys, I want to start a book club for Transplants. I feel like that'd be a lot of fun to help build like our digital community, do like a virtual book club. Just because I love a little book, yeah. And when I was growing up, I was definitely a reader and have gotten back into that in my adult years, which has been a lot of fun. But I feel like for transplants around, the country, if you don't have anyone near you that you can hang out with, you're still trying to navigate connections and friendships in your new city, we can do like a little virtual book club. I definitely want to build this transplants community into something that is beneficial for all listeners, no matter like where you are in the world. And in 2024, definitely want to cultivate that digital community and build it into, a fantastic little empire. Not little, but big, because I've got big goals. But definitely want to prioritize the community building of this podcast in 2024. So if you'd be interested in that, please follow Transplants on Instagram and TikTok. But yeah, in conclusion, I think it's important, no matter who you are, to remember that generally speaking, things are a slow burn when you first move. Establishing connections, grounding yourself in your new space and just trying to get used to everything takes time. And knowing who you are, knowing your tendencies, your habits and behaviors will definitely help you to set up systems and just things in place that will help navigate or help make navigating your move a little bit easier. And I hope this episode helped with that and hopefully gave you some good reminders to keep in the back of your head. But yeah, that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it helped. Please be sure to follow Transplants on all streaming platforms as well as on social media at Transplants Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And if you go into the episode description, if you have any topics that you want to hear about on the podcast, please be sure to submit them. I definitely want to make this podcast as beneficial and useful to you as possible. And if you need some advice navigating your move, maybe you're navigating a new friendship that is a little bit rocky right now, with literally any topic, any advice you need, there is an advice column. So you can submit your dilemma and it might show up on the podcast in a future episode. But yeah, that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, you're not as alone as you think.